Trying to get everything adjusted. Come on. Okay, so how's everyone this evening? This is Cassandra Williamson. I need to shut off the music for just a second. Where's the music at? There. Yeah, okay. Good. So hello, everyone. This is Cassandra Williamson coming to you from a holler in eastern Kentucky, right along the West Virginia border and near Virginia, up in the corner, right there. Okay. So few things to talk about. First thing is obviously everyone should know by now that President Trump is actually supposed to be driving around DC on patrol with the police, which I find to be interesting. Definitely his style of taking center stage of things and keeping himself in the news cycle. Riding around DC in a cruiser as they try to arrest people. I'm wondering how he's going to react. So anyway, there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And it's amazing to me that people still think that you can't hold two thoughts in your head at the same time on someone. Let's say Trump, for instance. I mean, goodness, we already know that he's going after anyone who doesn't look like, think like, believe like, or love like him. That's his administration. That's the Heritage Foundation. We all know all of that stuff. But here's the thing, though. This administration is really good at talking about people, telling their stories, even if the story is just one out of a million. To them, it doesn't matter. If they amplify the story, the impact of something that's happened to that one person, there is no legitimate way the opposite side can push back on that. There's no way to do it because they've got the upper hand. They're talking about an individual. What are you going to do? Say that individual is the cause of the problem? No. If you fall into that trap, you're going to become part of the problem. They will use that against you. The challenge we have is that we've never talked about the people over on the left side of things. We've never talked about them. We never told their stories. And we've never really laid out a plan for them to move forward. And one of the biggest things that all of us can do, that every single one of us can do where we are right now, is to smile and enjoy your lives. Don't let the distractions and all the bullying and all of the putting the federal government putting themselves between you and your doctors distract you from taking care of yourself. Be happy where you are, smile, interact with some people, find a way to engage with people who aren't like you, but at the same time, who don't think like you or believe like you or anything like that, who have no things in common with you at all, but find a way to talk to them. Find a way to be there where you are right now in your communities. Smile, get out, engage with people, shake hands. I'll tell you a little story that happened to me here just I guess it was last week now. Well, no, maybe the first of this week. Anyway, so I walked into a double quick gas station near here, and I was picking up some things for my brother, and that's my main goal, is make sure they're taken care of here at home. Okay, so I was picking up some things for my brother, and I noticed that this man had been watching me. I mean, just giving me the up and down the whole time I was in there. I came through the door, he was watching me. I think he watched me get out of the car. Then I walked through the door, and he's watching me get in line and all that kind of stuff. And then he even let me get in front of him. And that's when I decided that this guy's got a little loose screws, probably, maybe something else is going on. I don't know what's going on. So I put my best smile on and pulled out the best Marine Corps voice I could find and walked over to him. And I grabbed his hand and I applied what my dad called is don't give them that weak fish handshake. Make sure they know you're there handshake. Yeah, I did. I sure did. And I looked, I pulled him close and I said, do we know each other? He was so shocked. The look on his face was priceless. And then on top of that, he had a Trump 45-47 hat on. And I said, yeah, there's some things I can agree with Trump on, but not a whole lot. Well, maybe not much. And he goes, well, we don't need a preacher in the White House. And I'm going, uh really? And I'm watching him now, and he's up to the cash register, and I'm at the opposite one across, just near him, pretty close by. And he said, I about crushed my hand, telling the cashier. And I'm talking to the cashier, and I'm looking at him and all the cashiers, and everybody's just doing everything they can to keep from laughing, because apparently the guy had been in there just staring at every woman that walked in the door. And this one caught him off guard. But I do that a lot. That's fun, though. You know, I can go through Walmart or any store, really, any place, and you'll see this is what happens. This is what happens, and I've seen it, and it's just I'm going, oh my God, men are stupid. So I've watched men take a step back behind their significant other person, their wife or their girlfriend or whomever, take a step back behind them and then stare me up and down. And I want to just wave and say, hi, I'm glad to meet you again. Oh my God, wasn't it so fun the last time we met? I don't want to wreck a marriage, though. But I mean, this is the fun stuff. And I was telling one of the greeters at Walmart about what had happened at the Double Quick, and he was really busy, but he's also a veteran. He used to be a coach around here. Everybody calls him Coach. But I told him about it when it occurred, the day that it occurred, and I think it was sometime yesterday afternoon. He was working there again as a door greeter, and and he stopped me and he said, Cassandra, the story you told me the other day, did that happen in the store in here? Because I really want to make sure that we don't have people like that in this store. And I said, no, Coach, it didn't happen here. It happened at the Double Quick up the road. He goes, thank goodness. I just wanted to he said, I just wanted to make sure that you were all right and that we did everything we could to make sure that there were not some ignorant people around here who are harassing you or anything like that. I said, no, Coach, I actually, I took care of it myself with my Marine Corps voice and a good handshake. He just died laughing. He's let me see, an Army veteran, I think is what he was. Yeah, he's an Army veteran, but yeah, he's a door greeter down there, and he's actually, he's retired, and a lot of retired people go be door greeters after they get their full retirement age. They go down there and be door greeters, and they get to meet a lot of the people that they already know in the community. And that's not a bad gig, just to stand. Well, it's pretty boring probably, but to stand there and greet people and say hi and check their stuff and all of that kind of stuff in and out and everything. And I know that they're making a little bit of change, but they're helping their retirement fund, which is what I do when I go out. I mean, it surprises me that when I go out, now I'm not talking about going out on the town. I don't do that. I don't go out club hopping or anything like that. Don't drink anything at all. Now, I used to swim a lot in that when I was in the Navy, in the Marine Corps. Yeah, I did a lot. And I even thought that I stopped. I would tell people, well, it's been a while. And they would look at me like, you haven't been here for 2 years, have you? Yeah, it turns out I hadn't stopped. But anyway, so around here, the craziest thing is I've been doing that Spark, which is delivery with Walmart, and you can do pretty decent little change. I mean, it has to be a lot like what the Coach is making as a door greeter, probably even more. But there is the wear and tear on your vehicle and stuff like that. And, you have to balance all those factors out and consumption of gas and everything like that. But you go out and have fun. I video some things, I video my trips from here to Huntington, West Virginia, so that people can see the roads that I'm on and the paths that I'm taking and what it's like here along the Tug River. You go over to West Virginia and drive down beside the river and you go, I mean, it's really a gorgeous thing. So I take videos, and whenever I'm interacting with people, I pulled into a Dairy Queen one time. It's been about 3 months ago, I guess, in Kermit, East Kermit, West Virginia, in Mingo County. It's right on the Tug River. My dad actually built some of the buildings that are there. I think he built 2 of them that I know of. Big metal building, metal building erector. He built 2 of the big buildings there, and I think, yeah, he did. That's at least that I know of. So I know East Kermit. I know some of the people there. But anyway, so I go through the drive-through, and these people I order on the screen, they can't see me, and I get up to the front at the window, and then their whole demeanor changes, but for the good. For the good. I mean, they'll talk with me, they'll say hi, they'll do all this stuff, and they're really polite and nice. And I don't think it's performative at all. I think it's very real, because these people generally are younger. Now, there's some older ones, but every single one, regardless of age, always treat me with respect. They know I use this voice all the time. People around here have gotten kind of acclimated to the fact that I may look like this, but I sound like this. I just have fun with it all. Okay. And then there's some of you who will go, but you're just a man. And I say, well, look, I do have a son. And they're looking at me like, what does that mean? I said, well, because where do you think he got his Y chromosome from? I'm going, and that just diffuses their argument like in a hurry. Because it doesn't matter to me. It's who I am. It has nothing to do with that. It's sex and gender are 2 different things, if you don't know that already. I talk about it so much. But anyway, it's really fun, though. I interact with people. I mean, there's people who will run up to me and give me a big hug and just say, hi, how you been? And I interact with them and ask them the same questions. And I mean, there are trans people around here. And I thought for about a year, I thought I was the only one around. But it turns out there's more than that. There's a bunch. They are just not out in the public very much. Some of them are. Some are. Very sweet people, very nice people. Good to interact with. They're not strange. Really strange. There's nothing like that. No, they're just normal people wanting to live and work, and that's what they're doing. They're working. Some at Walmart and McDonald's and different places like that. Yeah, so just go out and have a little bit of fun. Just a little bit of fun. I'll tell you a story. When I first went public, I had some restaurants out yonder, out in Midwest, and they all failed, though, within like 6 months after I went public. It's like, really? Yeah. I tried to warn my friend who put it on the front page of the newspaper that it would destroy him too. And to this day, I'm really upset about that, or just distraught over that. Now, this has been 10 years ago. Feels like 10 years. But yeah, probably about 10 years ago. Close to it. So, and I told him, he was editor of the paper. I said, look, this generally doesn't go well for the people who are actually standing beside me and supporting people like me. And his response was, well, it's a pretty progressive place around here. The people will be all right with it, and I'll be fine. 2 months later, he was out of a job. The community, there was a letter somebody sent in from a little town in Missouri called Leeton, Missouri. Leeton. Surprisingly, I've got genetic family there. Yeah, I do. Anyway, this person from Leeton wrote into the newspaper and said, this was about 2 weeks after the front page story of me being on there. They said, we don't believe, and I'm paraphrasing just a little bit like how they would say it. This is how I imagine they would say it. Okay, so we don't believe in that kind of stuff around here. And besides, that's just a woman. Let me see. That's just someone in a training bra. And I'm going, ah. Oh, I thought it was funny. And everybody else around me was going, doesn't that offend you? I said, No, why? Why should it offend me? I just thought it was funny. I thought it was funny. I tell the story all the time. I did have one person come into one of my restaurants, and I had told my employees and everybody that morning exactly what was going on and everything. And one of my most frequent customers came in every morning, and they always wanted the same thing every day. And that thing was a 1 egg omelet. And I could go back on the flat top and I could make all that pretty easily, make a 1 egg omelet. Fine, fine. He wanted it about the size of a wallet, a man's wallet. And he wanted all the spicy food that I had back in the back to go in it to make it a thick wallet. So sure enough, I could whip up that little omelet for him, and take it out to him. He's devouring the food, and after he gets close to the end of all that, I hand him this letter I'd given to my employees, and I said, I just want you to read this sometime through the day, just because you're one of my consistent customers, and I appreciate you, and I figured it would just be the best thing to let you know what's going on with me. And so he finished his meal. He gave me the money paid for this food, and I gave a tip. And then I never saw him again after that. He never came back. But I know what he did, though, after he left. He went right straight to the local bank and told the cashier behind the counter there at the bank. He said, here, wait, I don't know exactly what he said. But anyway, I do know that in the afternoon, after the bank closed, cashier comes running out to me, and I didn't know the cashier. I didn't know anything about this bank. I didn't bank with that bank in that town. And so she came into the restaurant and she walked right straight to me and she said, "Do you mind if I pray with you?" And I'm going, our mutual friend. Yeah, that's what this is all about. Oh, it was funny. It was funny too. And I said, "Now look, do you really know how to pray? Because I know when you can't." And I'll tell you another story too. So it was just before all that happened. Well, actually, it's right after that. After that, one of the traffic in the restaurant started slowing down because of the stories, and everybody in town knew, and I knew everybody. I was involved in the community heavily. I was doing all kinds of stuff, Chamber of Commerce and the city council and all kinds of stuff. I was heavily engaged in the community. And one morning, mid-morning or so, I get a call from one of the restaurants, and they say, "Hey, who did we use back then? Was it U.S. Foods? I think it's U.S. The U.S. Foods truck didn't bring the veggies we need. Didn't bring enough." And I'm going, "Oh no!" They said they were kind of short. They had to spread it around a little bit. I'm going, "Oh no!" Okay then. All right. So, what do you need? I went to Walmart. And I parked. Now, here's what I did, though. See, this was early on. I was just learning. I was really just, I didn't know a thing, okay? But I did know that I had to get some confidence in myself. I didn't have confidence, really, or anything like that. I was lacking in all of it, everything. I didn't know how to do any makeup. And right now, I'm just kind of I'm blasé about it all at this point. But so I go to Walmart, but you would think that in the position I'm in and with the need that I had to get in and get out, that I would park up front and head right straight to the produce section and get the produce we needed, the veggies and the other thing, the fruit. So, no, that's not what I did. No. I told myself, I decided right then and there that if I was going to gain the confidence and become the person I am today, knowing where I wanted to go and all that kind of stuff, the only solution for me was to park as far away from the front door as possible in the furthest parking space from the front door of Walmart. You know, it's a pretty big parking lot. Most Walmarts, pretty darn big parking lots. So I parked as far back as I could from the door, and I looked around and I grabbed the steering wheel on that. I don't know what I was driving then. But anyway, I grabbed the steering wheel and I told myself, Marine, put your foot out the door and march. And that's what I did. I put my foot out the door, closed the door, held my head up high, and I just marched my way right in. I'm looking at everybody in the eye all the way down through the parking lanes, get into the store. I'm walking all around the store. I started at the furthest place from the veggie section you could possibly get in the store, and I walked slowly and deliberately up and down every aisle in the store, saying hi to people, just engaging with them. And one lady had, I think, four kids tagging along around her, young children, and she saw me coming. I know I didn't look. There was no way. I just looked really strange back then. But she grabbed those kids and she said, "Now, don't you go near people like that." And I'm going like, and I said, "Hi, how are you?" And walked on by. And then I went and got the veggies and stuff I needed and took care of it. And I've never looked back since, people. I've never looked back since. Never at all worried about it, anything. I know that my voice is a distraction to a lot of people, and it kind of is confusing to people. And I can cut off a lot of the low end and go like that and make it smoother, but it still doesn't come out right. And I'm so used to using the other voice because I've been in a lot of businesses over the years, numerous businesses. Oh my God. Can't tell you how many different industries I've been in, from newspapers to retail stores to real estate appraisals to construction and welding and a metal building erection and building office building, I built a bank, Dollar General stores. I've done a lot. Put up a trucking company building down in Tennessee, and I've done a lot of stuff over the years, and had 3 restaurants, and engaged on city council as part of the historical preservation committee. That's a funny story too. I was on the historical preservation commission in the town I lived in, and when I went public with me, and after I'd gotten the confidence to be able to do all this, everything that I knew I had to do, the city actually worked with me and changed everything. This was in Missouri. They changed everything. All the documentation that had my name on it, it was all changed to correct name. This one that I use now, Cassandra, it's all legal. I've had all the procedures, all of this kind of stuff. I am, anatomically completely in every way, no different than any other woman, except the voice is a little deep, like Lauren Bacall kind of thing. I got that smoky voice. And some men can't figure that out. There's another story about all of that. But I'm just talking about all this stuff because I want you to find some joy in things, some laughter. Find a way to get some peace in your life, but don't be afraid to laugh at yourself even. Don't be afraid to laugh at yourself. There's other people out there who will call you out on all kinds of stuff. Just be like Eleanor Roosevelt. She said, me paraphrasing slightly, the people are going to talk about you. People are going to talk about you. You might as well give them something to talk about. Right? So I remember attended a strategic deterrence conference, and this has been quite a few years back. I'm me. Everything you see, that's who I am. So, and I engaged with this representative from my district called Vicki Hartzler, Missouri 4. Vicki is anti-trans, anti-LGBT. I've been to her property. I've seen the sign that says, "Vicki, vote for Vicki." And I took pictures in front of it. But she sat at my table. And I had so much fun with her. Started going through all these conversations. And I said, so we're talking about strategic deterrence. We're talking about all this kind of stuff with the nuclear triad and all of this. And there were senior military leaders there all talking about this stuff at this conference. And it was really very interesting conference. It really was. C.Q. Brown was actually there. This is way before he became chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a really smart, on top of it man, CQ Brown. Yeah. And so I got to talk with him. I got to talk with Vicky Hartzler, and Vicky, she just got up from the table and left when I said, so what are you going to do about the people with different opinions who don't love like you or think like you or believe like you? And she didn't answer the question. She just got up and left. Oh my God, I've had so much fun. There's so many good stories. You've got stories in your life too. Find them, key on them, spend some time thinking about those things, and find a way to share your story with others so that they can see we're just as real as anybody else. There's nothing wrong with who we are. We are who we are, and that's all there is to it. I'll close out with one final story. This is the last one. Now, I've mentioned this thing a few times, probably over the course of the past 7-8 months now of doing this. And so I had all my procedures done. I mentioned that a minute ago. Everything's been done, all of that kind of stuff. About 6 months after all the procedures were completed, I called up my surgeon and I said, so when can I take the Ferrari for a test drive? And she was startled and she said, just wait for 6 months. And I said, it has been. So lo and behold, yep, I can tell you that everything's fine. Yeah, everything's fine. I was straight before and I'm still straight. You're going, huh? A different straight. Back then, I was a straight man who just could only ever think of being with my wife. And that was it. But after all the procedures and after everything was done, all I could ever think of then was about men. So I made sure everything worked, and it does. But when I was traveling the country, a couple years back, I stayed in a hotel near a Ferrari dealership across the Bay Bridge in San Francisco. Some of you may know what I'm talking about. If you've been there, you know where I'm talking about. It's just a small little, very inexpensive little hotel. It's right beside, actually, maybe 2 buildings down from a Ferrari dealership. So I go into the Ferrari dealership. I'm just looking at the cars. I'm taking pictures. I'm taking some selfies, and the owner of this place comes out and he says, so can I help you? And I said, yeah. I said, I for years now, I've been telling people that I wanted to take my Ferrari for a test drive. And he got it immediately because I used this voice. He understood exactly what I was saying at that point. I mean, it was pretty obvious. And he goes, so how much did your Ferrari cost? And I said, well, it's about $160,000. And he looked me very seriously in the eye and he goes, there are no Ferraris in here that's that cheap. I just died. We just had a good time with that one. Oh, he was a good person. He brought me some actual catalogs and stuff. I wasn't going to buy one of those cars. The cheapest one he had was $250,000. Nope. But it was nice. And we had a good conversation, just talking, chatting, having fun. So go find your place to have fun. Go to your high country if you have to get away from something. A high country is a term that actually comes from a friend of mine, Brigadier General Wayne Michael Hall, retired U.S. Army, retired in like 1999. Been a long time ago, hasn't it? But he was the commander of the South Korean forces. Very smart person. I'm thinking he lives now in Denton, Texas, I think. But Mike Hall wrote a book that had to do with war and had to do with how to think in complex environments strategically. And he actually wrote that book while we were doing podcasts together, or video vlogs together, I guess, webinars that he and I and Dr. Ed Brockhour from out in Monterey, California, we all worked together on this podcast thing. And Mike actually wrote the book off of some of the series that we were producing. And so that's where high country comes from, the term high country. So I want to give credit where it's due. Mike came up with that term. That's what he called it. He would encourage people in the military, in leadership, or even civilian leaders, that if you wanted to be a strategic thinker, if you wanted to be able to think in complex environments, then the thing to do is read Plato, read voraciously, read all kinds of things. And I'm a big proponent of that too. And that's, he and I were on the same page about all of that. Read things, even things you disagree with. Go read them, because you don't have to take them in. You can just read them and entertain the concept and the idea and get to know that thing and think about it more clearly, right? That's what we were doing. And it's worth it to be able to see things from other perspectives. So encourage your friends and neighbors to read more broadly. Don't let them just badge you over the head with the one book, because why? And then find your high country. That high country is a place where you can think and go over and review the things you needed to think about for that day, and just come to peace with what you have to do. You could find a quiet place anywhere you are and regain your strength, regain your ability to see beyond yourself. And that's the trick to all of this, folks, is being able to see the world through other eyes, but not only that, but also from different perspectives, from way up here, from here, and even from underneath or all around. That makes some of the best strategic leaders ever. And it also brings great peace. And tell yourself some stories every now and then. Tell yourself some stories and share your life with others. Don't be afraid. Get out there. Fear not, and move forward. With that, I'll see you tomorrow, around noon-ish. Have a great evening.